Hey there, my name is Abubakr Reda and I'm the founder of Now. Thank you so much for clicking this video, by the way. I want to tell you what exactly I'm going to show you in this video. And for that, I need to explain something first. You know, when I started this copywriting agency, I was doing cold outreach to some random businesses, offering them my copywriting service directly. After a while, I realized that what I'm doing is absolutely random, and it only depends on luck if they actually want my service or not. And even if they actually have any need for copywriting services, they don't know if I have the required skills and knowledge to do that copywriting work for them. So as a result, I was barely getting a reply from them. Now, finally, I understood that the cold outreach process should not be like that. It should never be reaching out to some random people or some random businesses. I understood that I need to find businesses with the intent to be able to work with them, or at least find some sort of a chance on that business to be able to work with them. As a copywriting agency, the chance that I had in my mind, or the chance that was making sense for me, I guess, was to find some businesses that has some gaps on their existing copy. That might be a sales page copy or a website copy or even email copy. And I would tell them that I could fix these gaps for them. That way, I don't reach out to some random businesses that I don't know anything about. Instead, I'm reaching out to some people who I know that they have some certain problem that I could fix, which means that I'm adding some value to them. And that way, I'm making myself credible and trustworthy in front of them. Now, if you're asking, how would these small gaps affect a business and be so valuable to solve? In other words, why would they care about solving these gaps on their copy? Well, to answer this question, we need to know what I mean by gaps first. Copy gaps means some problems on the words of the copy, or even a problem on the structure of the copy itself. For example, let's say that I found a sales page that has some gaps on its copy. That means that this copy is not answering all the questions that come up on the prospect's mind. And that is the reason that a lot of people, or a lot of these prospects that landed on that page, would not be taking action, which means the conversion rate of that page is very low. So if I was able to fix these gaps for them, then the conversion rate would go up, and of course the sales performance would go up. Because copywriting work is always associated with monetary ROI, it's always valuable. After I understood all of this, and I actually had this idea to only reach out to people who have some problems or some gaps on their copy, I decided to actually put this plan to work. That's why I designed an automated email cold outreach sequence to be able to get some clients for my sales page copywriting service. Now I know this is kind of long name, but it's easy to understand. It simply means that it's a group of email that's used to do cold outreach. And automated mean that it's going to be sent automatically. All I have to do is to add the email address to the sequence or to the cold outreach list, and the emails will be sent automatically as the sequence is designed. Now, I don't want to make this video long, so I'm going to show you the first email of that sequence, and I'm going to break down the copy of that email for you in detail. So what you're seeing right now in front of you on the screen is basically the whole email being broken down in detail for you. Now, quick note in here before we start, I don't want you to care about all the yellow notes in here and get overwhelmed with it. It's just basically there to remind me by all the important things that I want to mention. This is the actual email that we have in here, and that's we are going to discuss together. So let's start with the subject line, which says company name, copy breakdown. Let's actually analyze the subject line together. So there are actually two main reasons that made me use the subject line. The first one, it's basically personalized when I mention the company name. And the second one, it is not 100% clear. Now the question would be, why would I use something or a subject line that is not 100% clear? And the answer to that question is actually very simple, which is basically that this unclear part on the subject line creates a gap on the reader's mind, or what we call sometimes leave the loop open, creates an open loop on the reader's mind to evoke their curiosity to want to read more. Because this is a subject line at the end of the day, and the main job of the subject line is to basically get the reader to click on it and actually open the email. So mentioning that your company, I'm doing a copy breakdown for it, is going to evoke two emotions in your mind. The first one is curiosity, and the second one is fear. So basically, it's going to be enough for you to click on that subject line. There's a great quote by one of the greatest copywriters. His name was Roy H. Williams. He was a copywriter that specializes in ad copywriting. And he has a great quote that says, "Bad ads leave no gaps." And that just proves my point that we should always have a gap on our copy to basically not answer all the important questions on the reader's mind immediately. We want the reader to have a reason to scroll more and read more, or click on the email and actually open the email to read what's inside the email. Now, quick note in here, usually when I write emails, I write more than one subject line for the email. And the reason why, because usually I'm writing emails for email marketing campaigns or cold outreach sequences that has a huge possibility for me to do A/B testing for the subject lines. And one of the other subject lines that I had in mind before this one actually is a subject line that goes like this: first name, you're missing some sales. Now, I did not use that subject line for one specific reason, which basically the word sales on it. Because using the word sales on a subject line will trigger what we call the spam detector. And it's basically going to make this email land on the spam folder of the recipient. And it's never going to go to their inbox, and of course, it will never be read. And that's why I prefer to use this specific subject line. Let's move on to the opening line of the email, which says, "This is definitely not me, but what would you think about a salesperson that closes thousands of sales at once without charging any commissions and without taking any breaks or days off?" This is basically a huge claim, and it's almost unreal, because there isn't a salesperson that actually doesn't take any commissions and doesn't take any breaks or days off. That is almost impossible. And this opening line is basically there to hook the reader and get their attention immediately, because it's one of the biggest claims that he might read. Now, a huge claim like that could also backfire on us, and that's for two main reasons. The first one, that this line sounds like a scam. I mean, who's a salesperson that closes thousands of sales and doesn't get any commissions and doesn't take any days off? It's almost impossible. And the second reason that this line might backfire on us is mentioning the word salesperson. Now, mentioning the word salesperson in an opening line is not really a good idea, because there is a general rule actually in sales that says people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. So if people hate to be sold and you're mentioning a salesperson, which their job actually to sell to people, then it's not a really good idea. But even after all of that, I still use this subject line because it's really hooking with this huge claim that it has. And to remove any of the downsides that we have on this opening line, basically I had a line here that says, "This is definitely not me." And this line is basically doing two things right now. The first thing, it's removing any of the downsides of that opening line that we just mentioned. And the second thing, it's actually creating a gap on the reader's mind. Because if I say, "This is definitely not me," then still the question remains, who and what exactly am I? So now I just removed all the downsides of this opening line, and I still used it to basically hook the reader and get their attention immediately on the hook or the open of the email. And then I immediately start closing some of these gaps that I just created in their mind by saying, "Yep, that sounds too good to be true, but as a sales page copywriter, that's exactly how I would describe an efficient sales copy on any sales page." Now, this line is actually closing two gaps on the reader's mind. The first one is basically when I tell them, "But as a sales page copywriter," now they know exactly what I am, but they still don't know who am I, because I did not introduce myself. And the rest of this line is telling them what I exactly meant with that huge opening line that I had, or that huge claim at the beginning. When I say, "That's exactly how I would describe an efficient sales copy." Now, this basically tell them that that salesperson that I just mentioned in the beginning, that closes thousands of sales without charging any commissions and without taking any breaks or days off, is exactly the description that I would describe an efficient sales copy on a sales page. And that basically fixed the spam part that we had in the beginning from that huge claim. Now, after filling some of these gaps and basically hooking the reader to read more, I start getting into the body of the email by saying, "First name, I'm really sorry for cold emailing you like that, but I had to contact you when I came across the company name website. Now, there are a few things that I want to mention about this line. The first thing that I want to talk about is using the first name at the beginning right here. Now, using the first name or the company name, as I mentioned in the beginning, is basically making the email more personalized. But the thing that I want to focus on right now is basically using the first name on the beginning of the body. Now, the reason I use the first name in the beginning of the body is to make sure that I'm getting the attention of the reader. I'm engaging them with me, especially on this part, which is the main part of the email. Because the first name is one of the most powerful words that basically gets people attention and get them to engage with you. That's why when someone's called your first name in the street, you immediately turn around. And the second thing that I want to talk about is when I said, I'm really sorry for cold emailing you like that. Now, the reason I'm saying sorry for the cold email, because I want to remove any tension or any pressure that I create with the cold outreach. Especially that we have a very hooking opening line at the beginning. And then the last thing that we have in this line is basically when I said I had to contact you when I came across the company name website. Now what I'm doing right now is basically justifying the cold email that I'm sending to them, but also not giving them a full picture of the reason that I'm actually reaching out to them. Because I said I had to contact you when I came across the website, but they don't know what I found in the website. They don't know the exact thing that made me contact them. So I'm still leaving a gap on their mind to actually read more. And then I start introducing myself very briefly and very quickly right here by saying, my name is Abubakr Reda, and I'm the founder of Novum, a digital marketing agency that offers copywriting services and specializes in sales page copywriting. Now I want to mention something very quickly in here before we start diving deep into the body of the email. A lot of people prefer to use this line to basically start their email. They start their email by saying, hello, this is Alex from XYZ company, and I'm here to offer you whatever. This basically, or that line, my friend, is one of the worst ways you could ever use to start your email or start your conversation with anybody. Because that line have been burned and used by every single salesperson ever. Because imagine this. Imagine someone's calling you and saying, hello, this is Alex or this is Noah from XYZ company. You immediately know that they are salespeople from that company and they're here to sell you something. And you immediately hang up the phone on them or shut the door in their face or of course bounce out of the email. And if I started the email by an opening line like that, that makes people perceive me as a salesperson, then they will immediately, as I said, they will bounce out of the email. And one of the things that would flag our email address actually as a spam is when we have a high bounce rate. Add to that the general rule of sales that I just mentioned a few seconds ago is basically saying people love to buy but they hate to be sold. So why would I ever start with an opening line that's making them perceive me as a salesperson? That's exactly why I said starting an email by introducing myself in the beginning is not a very good idea. Now, before we dive deeper into the email, I want to go back to something very important. A few seconds ago, I said that I had to contact these people after I came across their website. So basically, I give a reason for the cold email, but I still did not justify that reason. I still did not tell them what exactly I found in their website that made me contact them. Because as a copywriter, I could always just understand the conversation that's happening on the reader's mind. And if we imagine this for a second, if anybody received a cold email from someone, they would have two subconscious questions in their mind immediately. The first one is, who is this person? And the second one is, why is he reaching out to me? And if you realize, I basically introduced myself right here to answer the first question. And to answer the second question, I go further and say, I'm reaching out to you because I came across your website and I have found some gaps on its sales copy that might be causing your conversion rate to be low. And don't worry, I have prepared a simplified breakdown graph for these gaps to check it out yourself. Now, by this, I basically answer the second subconscious question on their mind, which is, why are you reaching out to me? Because I have found some gaps on their website that might be causing their conversion rate to be low. And the graph that I'm mentioning right here is basically the bridge for me to be able to add a value to them and fix the problem that they have, to be able to create a connection with these people at the end. Now we're around half of the email in, and I'm very sure that the reader is basically hooked enough to keep reading. So I don't need to hook them or get their attention more than that. But if I want them to take action at the end of this email, then I basically should make sure that they would open that graph and they would want to see that graph to fix these gaps that they have. And that's why I should tell them the pains and the frustration that they would have because of these gaps. And I want to tell you exactly actually the reason that makes me right now want to focus on the pains and the frustration that these gaps are creating for them. And that's because humans in general are triggered to react to their pains and frustrations more than their wants and their needs. So basically, if I start talking about the pains and the frustration that these gaps are creating on their copy or on their website for their business, then basically I would start to sell them the idea of the graph more. And that's exactly, I went ahead right here and I said, the gaps in your sales copy could create bad connection between your business and your customers. And instead of overcoming their objection, it would increase them, causing your page to have lower conversion rate. If you realize, I'm mentioning all the pains and frustration that they could ever possibly have because of these gaps. The bad connection between them and their customer, the objection that it's not properly handled on their sales page, and the low conversion rate that they would have at the end, that's basically affecting their sales directly. So what I'm doing right here is basically focusing on the pains and the frustration that they would have to sell them the idea of the graph at the end. And then after that, basically I'm removing them from the misery to the place that they want to go and saying, on the other hand, having an efficient sales copy that talks to your target market directly, touches on the pains and overcome their objection, and eventually turn them into loyal customer might be the most important asset you could ever have for your business. And here you could see that I'm focusing on the wants and the needs that they could have from an efficient sales copy. So what I'm doing right here is basically targeting their pains and frustration and also talking to their wants and their needs. And basically by doing these two things, I am proving to the reader that the person who wrote this email understands their mind and understand where they want to go, and he wants to help them achieve it. And that's exactly why I tell them it's going to be like a salesperson that's able to close thousands of sales at once. Now I'm talking about that efficient sales copy, of course. But if you realize this specific line, a salesperson that's able to close thousands of sales at once, is the same line that I had in the opening line when I said a salesperson that's able to close thousands of sales at once. So now I have basically fully justified that huge claim in the beginning. And the person who's reaching out to them is not a scammer, and he has pure intention to actually get them to achieve the wants and the needs that they have. And then of course I immediately tell them how the breakdown graph is going to help them achieve the wants and the needs that they have. And I said the breakdown graph that I prepared for you will be very beneficial for you to know what these gaps are and how it's affecting your page performance. So now I make it very clear for them of how that graph that I'm giving to them is going to be beneficial for them and it's going to help them achieve their wants and their needs. And now, after fully convincing them that I'm here to basically give them a value, they will subconsciously have two last questions in their mind. The first one is, what do I need to get that value? And the second one is, how much does it cost? And that's exactly what I'm answering on the CTA that we have in here. And I said, don't worry, I'm not here to sell you. Just hit me with a reply if you're interested and I will send it to you. It's 100% free. Now this line basically overcome the two subconscious questions that they just had. And the first thing is basically they know to get that value, they only have to reply at this email. And they don't have to worry about any payment because it's 100% free. Now again, the reason that I'm making this 100% free because I want to give them a value to be able to create a connection with them. So if I mention a price, it's not going to be a value. It's going to be me selling them something. And I don't want the connection to be like that. I want them to perceive me as a person who's reaching out to them purely to give them a value, even if we're not going to work together at the end, which is going to make me very memorable for them. And last but not least, we have the end of the email. And at the end of the email, there isn't actually that much. I'm only telling them that I'm basically doing this for free on my website also for other people. And that of course will result in removing any left fears on them. And also making them understand that we're not making the breakdown graph only for them, but we're actually offering on our website for 100% free for a lot of other people. So when they know that there are other people who are actually doing it also, they don't feel worried about anything. And I'm also giving them a chance right here to check my website and my social media to give them a chance to know me more. And I'm adding the website and social media as embedded links to keep things arranged and very clear. Lastly, there are 4 notes that I want to talk about in the overall email. The first thing, that this email was written in a very simple structure that's called lead body close. If you realize, we have a very simple lead that's hooking the reader and urging them to read more, and a very simple body where I introduce myself and I also target the pains and frustration and the wants and the needs that they have to be able to sell them the graph. And lastly, I close with a very simple CTA that's very clear, and I tell them that it's 100% free to basically give them the idea that I'm here to offer them a value. The second note that I want to mention is that this email is basically 418 words, which means that's going to take around 2 minutes for the average reader to read, which is a very good time for the first cold email. Now to the third note, which is that this email was written on grade 9 readability. Now, the average reader is considered to have a readability level between 7th grade and 8th grade. So having this email written on 9th grade readability is making it almost clear to the average reader to read. Now to the fourth note. This email was structured to be short and have good spaces between its paragraph to make it feel less professional and more like a conversation with the reader. Because at the end of the day, you should remember that we're trying to offer a value to the reader from a cold email. So I should turn this cold email into a warm one and make this email more as a conversation and not very professional. Anyway, I hope this video was beneficial for you at any kind of how. If you like it, please drop a like. And if you needed any copywriting work, my email and my social media is going to be available for you at any time you want. You could reach out to me through any of them. And if you have an existing copy that you want to break down like this email and know the ins and outs in your copy, then all you have to do is to click on the link on the description that I'm going to leave for you. And without further say, hope you have a great day.